So starting with a blank document, we should keep a list of like just common little shortcuts and stuff that we come across whenever. Like the first one I thought of when I opened a document the first time. Since the screen is made bigger so that you can see it from back there, when I come in, it's zoomed really far in. And in most applications, if you press Control on the keyboard and then scroll your mouse wheel, it zooms in and out. So if you press Control on your keyboard and scroll your wheel back and forth, it will zoom in and out. Let's look for a marker to make a list behind me. And some of these you might know, some of them you might not. I think. So let's start out with using a style to format things. So just type something in for a title. And then while you're on that same line, you can just click Title up on the top. So if you weren't using styles, you might highlight it, change your font to something bigger, make it bold. But just clicking this title does all of that for you. If you want to add just random text into Word, there's two different functions to do that. One is you type equals rand, and then in brackets, I always forget which order it is. So if I type equals rand, and then one number represents the number of paragraphs, and then the other one represents the number of lines. I think paragraphs comes first. So if I go rand 3, comma 1, and then hit enter, I get 3 one-line random paragraphs, or just sentences in this case. So it might be a little more obvious what it's doing if I make it a little bit longer. Oops. I'm not sure where it finds this text. It pulls it off of the internet somewhere, I think. The other one, which in some cases, if you're like laying out a newspaper or something, is a little safer because it doesn't use real words. Yeah.
What's rand?
So that's if you want to add just random text. You go equals rand, and then 2 numbers. Yeah, so we'll just go. So those can be any number, and these are the number of paragraphs. And then the next number is lines per paragraph. So instead of trying to find stuff to cut and paste to make a document and like wasting time on finding real information, you can just do that. So again, that's, you type equals rand, which stands for random, and then your numbers. Oops, 2, 3, and then when you hit enter, it gives you that number of paragraphs with that number of lines per paragraph. The other one, and I was saying it's a little bit safer if you're doing like laying something out and you don't have the information yet, because it doesn't use real words. So like if you looked at that random stuff and somebody else had been working on it, you might say, oh yeah, that looks like real work, and when it just doesn't have anything to do with what it was supposed to be. But the other one is it originated from somebody made some writing, and it was called lorem ipsum, and it was just mostly random words that didn't mean anything but looked like real text when you like formatted it, so it was good for laying out newspapers and stuff without having actual words for, or having the actual stories yet. And so that one's very similar. It's equals lorem, and again, number of paragraphs and a number of lines per paragraph. Yes, that's right. So you could put in your title and then just add some random text using either one of those. And then it's good to keep your documents split up into sections. So to add new sections, so let's say this is like your title page and that's all you got there. I mean, you might want to format it a little prettier, but we can worry about that later. So under the Layout tab, there's a button for breaks. And if you click on that, you have some different page breaks. So we'll work with columns a little bit later and text wrapping. But right here, if this is a fairly long document, usually you want to start your new sections on the next page. So I'll go layout, breaks, section break, next page. And then back on my home tab, I'll add my heading for the new section. And you notice as soon as I clicked heading the first time, this up here popped up. As soon as we start putting anything in there, it puts that heading down over here, and then any other heading we add later on will keep indenting, and it'll be ordered if you're using subheadings. So under this first heading, we'll just put another paragraph. And this might just be an introduction to the section, basically. And then after that, I'm going to add a heading 2. So that's basically, that's a subheading under any heading 1. And actually, I'll call this section 1 instead of, oops. Section 1, not heading 1, because heading 1 implies the level of the heading. And then I'll call this section 1.1, and then I can add some more text here. And you'll notice it's not always like, it's actually rarely exactly the number of lines you put in, but it actually looks like half says I put in 6. But anyways, and then maybe another heading 2, and this might be section 1.2. And maybe this one just starts off with a single line, and then maybe we have some even smaller subsections to it, and we'll put that under a heading 3 and call this section 1.2.1. Give it some more text. And then maybe another one at that same level. Maybe that has a bunch more information to it. So now we got, you can go, and so now you can click over on the left here, any point in here, and it will take you to that part of your document. You can also view it in this same pane on the left hand side as pages, or you could search for something. So if we search for lorem, we can find all that over here. Scroll through and click to any of the instances instead of just being over here and going Control F. Well, that brings up the same thing now. I don't know if 2013 this results or this search results is the same. I think it might just go through one by one like a lot of other applications. But I know this headings thing here is the same. Oh, and actually if you've searched it now, so if you searched, it highlights any one of them that has your search result in it now. Which is all of them because I used that lorem ipsum in every single section. So why don't you go, as just a short exercise, add another section. So go to the end here, go insert. What did I do? Sorry, layout. I don't know why I was going insert. I want to insert a break, insert break, section break, next page. And then so make a section 2 and see how many heading levels you can use. Has anybody got down to the last one they can do? Here's a little thing I'll show you in case you like if you get a document from somebody else and you just can't figure out why when you're trying to edit it it doesn't act the way you think it does, you know, like funny lines and stuff. If you go onto your home tab and click on this little icon that looks like a backwards P. If you click on that, it will add all the formatting to it. So spaces become a dot. So like if you're noticing you're looking around and you get a bunch of blue lines like this. If you turn that on and you see a whole bunch of double dots, it means they've been doing two spaces, which there's still people. So from way back in the days of typewriters, it used to be common practice, well, pretty much standard practice, to have two spaces after every period, after every sentence, I should say. So periods, exclamation marks, question marks. You'd put two spaces after them always. And I think that's just because a lot of times after a period you would kind of lose it because it was too narrow because of the way the typewriters were built. So you'd put the two spaces so it was obvious where the end of sentences were. Even in early word processing, people did that a lot. So even probably into the 2000s, it was probably taught in typing classes and stuff, especially with old dot matrix printers, which would have the same issues as typewriters for readability. So I don't think anybody's old enough to do that here, but you never know. Maybe someone's parents taught them when they were trying to get them to type, no, put two spaces. And then every time you hit enter, you'll get one of these backwards P's, which is, I think, the symbol for a carriage return. I think that's what that means. Anyways, the carriage return meant so from the really old typewriters, when you would slide because you'd go across like this and you'd have to slide the whole thing back and then hit enter, so you'd slide it back and then go to the next line. So when you hit return, it's called enter now, but that's why a lot of times you hear people say hit return even though it says enter here. And even old computer keyboards did say, a lot of them said return. And that's what that meant, is you returned the carriage to the beginning and then went to the next line. So if you've made it all the way through all of the headings, you'll find that you can get to 9 levels. And then there's also some other some other types of formatting. So let's go through some of those. So I'm going to turn this formatting back off. Oh, but yeah, before I do, these are the ones that are really quite helpful. I think mostly in the breaks. I can't highlight it, too bad. Like right here at the end where we inserted a section break, it gives you these lines and says section break, next page. And if your sections aren't working like you expected, oops. There's also an option to just have a page break, which actually doesn't break your sections. I don't know if we'll get into details of how much sections actually means, but if you notice, this just says page break, the other one said section break, next page. So there are differences, and this one's just maybe you had just a little bit of one like part. So say your page ended and you only had like this much of this on that page. It would look silly to just leave that there, so you might as well just force it to the next page by putting in a page break. Word does have a built-in function that they refer to as, I think it's orphan control. It used to be anyways. Maybe they come up with a more politically correct term for it. But anyways, it can automatically do that for you. It's like if there's just a little bit at the end of the page, it'll put it onto the next one so that it looks nicer. Now that I closed that, I don't know how to reopen it. It might be under view. Yeah, okay. So if you close it and need to reopen it, go under view and then navigation page. Here's another feature that I like to have on always is notice that I've got a ruler across the top and the bottom. Or sorry, across the top and along the left-hand side. Comes in quite handy with your formatting. And again, it's under view again, and then you can turn on rulers. You can also turn on grid lines. I've never really had much use for that in Word, but if you were laying out pictures and stuff, that might be useful to you. So by default, anytime you go after a heading or anything special, it always returns your text back to this normal here. But say you have something that's a quote from somebody. The standard format for a quote from somebody is to like make it narrow, like if it's a long quote, you make it narrower, centered in the page. And there is a built-in quote here, so I can go, oh, sorry. I have to make sure both, at least some of both of these, all of the paragraphs that I want to change are contained within the highlight. Or maybe not, I shouldn't. Okay, yeah. So if, that's not what I wanted to do. if I just click in the middle of a paragraph, I could change that at once, and I could do the other one. But as long as some of both of these are selected, and and then I select the quote, it will do both of the paragraphs. And I will just one of the reasons I like the rulers on is you can always adjust your margins and stuff. We'll do a lot more in the way of page formatting later. But you'll notice that when I'm in this section, that's the quote section, I end up with these handles at the top here. And notice that they line up with the edges of the text. So I can grab those and change the width of them. And so you can do that for any paragraph too. So these ones happen to be all the way to the edge of the margins, but I can drag those in if I wanted to do so. I don't know if any of these others need to be mentioned. Oh, so maybe references. Yeah, so they've also got one for an intense quote. Which actually, if you notice, like, I think you'll notice this kind of formatting, maybe not a totally different color, but this kind of a formatting for an actual quote. Okay. So before we go any further on this, on anything else, so here's the biggest advantages of using these styles. Not only is it easy to just do it as you go, and it all looks the same as you get through, but if you wanted to change it later on, you don't have to go through and change anything within your document. Because if you go to the Design tab at the top, you'll notice these it starts off with themes on the left, and each one of these along here will change your text to a different thing. So if I were to choose this one, it changes the color to green instead of blue, but it also changed all of the fonts and stuff. And actually, if you just hover over it, you can see what each one of them looks like. And here's the reason to use, make sure you use section breaks. If you want to number them, so I manually type the numbers in. I thought I turned this off. I manually type the numbers in, but there's some that have, you'll notice that there's a number at the beginning now too. So those will be generated automatically. And they just happen to line up with what I did because that's the standard format for numbering sections if you're just using numbers. I think there's a way to modify them if you want them to be letters as well. So if you wanted it to be like 2A instead of 2.1. If anybody's interested in that, I will figure that out later and show you. And then, so if you're not, so if you pick one but you don't like the colors, oh, like this is horrible. Why would you have blue and orange and then green? Okay. Anyways, so if you click on these colors on the, so next to all those themes, click colors, and you can pick the one that, if you just scroll over them, you can see how they go. I haven't quite figured out exactly which colors align with which heading type. But if we switch it back to one where the colors we do like, we can look and see. I think we can. It doesn't tell us which. What was that? Huh. Well, no, I've messed it up. Anyways, you can go through and pick one that looks good. I think this office one, I think that's the default one. Yeah. And then fonts, you can even choose a different font for the for each of them. And again, I think each one of them has a default font. So if you want to, you can also modify them as you go along. You can start off by making a copy of one by, so once you pick the one, you can right click on it. Wait, how do I? Before I do that, I don't know if we modify one if it changes everything and like saves it to disk. So let me just try and make sure it doesn't, like, so we don't mess up your default ones. But anyways, if we change a font size or something, so we click in here and we know that's the title, but we've changed it. So when you see the one that's highlighted that it's set to, if you go up on the style and right click on it and click modify, no, sorry, update title to match selection, no, okay. So we do have to copy it. So from design, under, I thought we just had to right click on it. Just check Google. Oh, okay, yeah. So on the left where the themes are, if you click on it, go click Save Current Theme. It will put it under your default location, which is on the computer, under your documents or your app data. We could save this to a custom folder, or save it to your Google Drive if you want. So maybe I will do that. So instead of saving it there, I'm going to go into my Google Drive, go to Classroom, Computer Science. And I'll just save it as theme 1. Okay, so now it is using... Okay, no it wasn't. So it's still highlighted on the old one, but this one over here is my custom one. So now back in our home, if I want to add this, apply this to the theme so that if I use it again, update title to match selection. Okay, so now if I make a new title, it makes it big like we changed it to instead of what the original was like. I think for the most part the built-in ones are going to do you for most applications. There's some that do some centered ones. One that has highlighted bars and then just an overline when you get to a certain one. So if you manually want to change any one of these, like if we want to change just section 1, we just want to make that centered, we can do that. And then again we can right click on it and go update heading to match selected. It matches that one and it matches that one. Actually I think, because that one wasn't the one that I copied, so let me just see if what I told you about copying it is true. So what is that one called? Yeah, it says that one there. Oops. So if I go choose that one, okay, it's back to normal. So if you modify, so if you modify it within a document, it's not going to ruin it for the rest. Yeah, okay, and then you don't have to worry about keeping track of where you save those theme files. And we can discard that. So why don't you play around with that for a few minutes. And look at the colors. You can go down, okay, so before I do that, I'll mention you can go under colors, you can go down to customize colors. And then if you look here and match the colors. You should be able to change that to whatever. Okay, see, that's, I haven't figured out which ones line up with which, so I think, yeah. So in some themes, all of the titles use the same level of color. So let's go back into there. This one down here, this accent 1, that's the color that I changed, and it changed the background on section 1 to the actual color that I changed it to, and then as you went down it used the same color but lighter. So we can use the standard colors. Yeah, I did that again. Oops. Okay, so if we right click on any of these any of the styles and go modify, does that give us information? No. Name, heading 1 style. Okay. If anybody's interested in those colors, I'll find out what how we identify which is which. Oh, actually down here it gives us a whole bunch more information. Font is 11 point, background 1. Oh, font color, background 1. All caps English expanded by after. But it doesn't tell us why the... Okay. If we want to go into more depth into that later, I'll have to figure it out and let you know. I think that's really about all I can tell you about styles and themes, for now anyways. So I need to run to my office for a minute. So play around with that for a bit. And when I come back, we'll go into, I guess, just basic paragraph formatting. And then maybe into inserting pictures and objects and how to format those. And then if we still have enough time, maybe we'll look at how to add headers and footers. So has everybody been able to follow along with what we've done so far? For the most part? Okay.
Hut.com's team of full-time design.
I thought that was my chair going off. Interactive chair. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh my gosh. So what did they say is the presentation?
No.
I watched the video, one of them.
Yeah, Sam, did you do any journals?
No,
Just did your
that's what the
videos?
weekend's for.
Oh.
Last day.
Right? Could I get an extension already? Extension and class will be over in 2 weeks.
Take the kids and back them behind 2 weeks.
For sure this week. Gotta get motivated.
That's what I was thinking. We know.
So they moved the nation back to red.
Did
They
they?
just posted.
What, do you know what cases?
No, but they're just following and being, is it being cautious and vigilant? Yeah, just, but I heard there was a case at the high school.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So,
So you gotta film something today.
oh my gosh,
I was one of those Or it's in the city. They don't want that.
it said do nothing. And that was simple as
One,
yeah.
'cause I couldn't even touch anything. Did you guys have to hand in anything on Monday? Monday's class?
No,
In this
he was
class?
just like walking us through it,
Just like this?
just like how to
Oh,
use
okay.
the classroom and
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
Just get us all logged in and everything.
Oh, okay. So none of these ones that are on there already are, they're kind of nothing on there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just like examples on how to work the classroom.
Oh, okay.
They found it, yeah. I just looked at that just now and they said some good stone, he said we found it.
How are we gonna be able to learn this at home?
Well, he said he's gonna record this.
Sorry I took so long.
I think I'll be pretty yourself.
So, if you want to get to all of your before, or I guess, does anybody have any questions about what we did before we move on? No, you're all good. So, if you want to get to all the format options for paragraphs, you can right click on it and then go down to paragraph. So just right click anywhere within the paragraph and go paragraph. There's not a whole lot here. The most useful one that I'll point out is probably the spacing before and after. So if I just increase the after, I mean that's a lot, but you can see it just makes a bigger, so it makes a bigger space afterwards without putting like actual blank lines there.
Instead of just hitting enter.
Yeah, exactly. even just one enter, it's I really hate it when I get a document from somebody and it's got blank lines inserted manually when this is an option, especially when there's a mixture of both. And then I go to change, because then say okay, let me change that back again. Oh, and so you don't actually have to go right click and paragraph. If you're on layout, most of the options that are in that pop-up are just under the layout tab. Actually, I think all of them might be. So alignment, left, right, center, that is on the home tab. Yeah, all of this indents are on the layout tab. The spacing is in the layout tab also. So if you just go on the layout and look for the spacing before and after, you can just adjust it there. So if you were to just add a blank line and leave it like that, and this was turned down to 0, then if I highlighted a section and increased that, then I increase that, it has twice the section, twice the impact that I intended. So, but I guess the point is just don't use blank lines. There's absolutely no reason to do that to yourself. Especially if you're trying to make it line up with something. Because this, and especially this, gives you like a fraction of a line. Like a line, I can turn this up by like 6, and a line is more than 6 high. So. And then you can just use the indents on here. And you can indent on the, whoops, wrong way. On the right as well. And notice on the top there, these things moving along, those are the same handles. Did everyone turn on their rulers? Yeah, okay. So, I guess I'll explain what these guys do here. So, the one on the right is just a single one. If I grab it, slide it in, that is where the paragraph gets indented on the right. On the left side, if you grab the square one, that just moves both of the ones above it. If I grab the bottom, if I click on the bottom triangle, that's the hanging indent. So I can slide that in and slide the first line to a different spot. I can even indent it more, which used to be, that was another common thing that came from the typewriter's days, was to leave a to indent the first line by a tab, or even 2 spaces. And here's why. If I take these 2 paragraphs and I put those together, and I just make the spacing 0. So on a typewriter and like an old dot matrix printer, you didn't have, well, I guess a dot matrix printer you could have, but initially you really didn't have an option to put spacing between the lines. You could only put an actual blank line, especially on typewriters. And so, say this line had more text here. I mean, I got extra punctuation there, so it's kind of obvious that that's not the right thing. But these are 2 paragraphs, and what if the one paragraph above it ends close to the end of it? It all looks like one paragraph. So if I highlight both of these and I grab this top one and I indent the beginning, now you can see where the paragraphs start quite easily. You can also go the other way, where the first line gets indented more than the second line. Did I do that right? Okay, so I did the first one right and the second one wrong. So if I want to copy formatting from one spot to another, I can just click in one part and one in the first paragraph. And from the Home tab, on the left side where there's the clipboard, there's this little paintbrush. If I click on that and then click on the other paragraph, it copies the formatting from the first paragraph to the second paragraph. If I needed to, for some reason, to scroll through and copy the formatting from this one to a bunch of different ones, and they were all just individuals, if I click back again in the paragraph that I want to copy from, this time if I click twice on the Format Painter, that didn't work. It used to. Maybe I have to right click on it. Huh. Just hang on a second. Let's see what is new. Maybe I have to actually do a double. No, that doesn't. Oh, yeah, it does. Okay. So it used to be just 2 clicks. Now you actually have to like make it a proper double click. So now that's on. I can go through and just click on anything that I want to copy the formatting to. Even headings and stuff will work on it. Okay. And then yeah, so if you do that,
So
I
does
think
that work with bullets and stuff too?
yeah. Okay, yeah, let's have a look at that then, that specific
I'm just
example.
thinking like when I did a resume and I used a format off of Google Docs or Microsoft Word, and then I changed to a different job that I was doing. Sometimes it wouldn't allow me to. I'd have to do all this extra stuff to put like the font to match and the bullets and everything
Yeah.
to match the format. So I mean, if that format painter's there, I mean, it'll totally save me 3-4 hours.
Yeah, it actually does work. I'll actually go through that specific example. So, is everyone familiar with how to make bullets and stuff? Okay. Actually, why don't we hit on that first?
So just go blank document again?
Or you can just add a new section at the bottom. I'm not a fan of styles where it makes things all caps. Again, that comes from back when you didn't have formatting options. So if you needed something to stand out and you needed it to look like a heading, you might just make it all caps so that it's obvious that this line is different from everything else. Whereas now it's like you can highlight it all in the color and it's pretty obvious that it needs to stand out. Okay. So back on the Home tab, we have under the paragraph section, we have 3 different options for things like lists. The first one is bullets. If you just click on it, they're just going to be dots. And if you select that on and just start typing things and hit enter in between each one, if you accidentally hit enter twice, it exits out of that. And maybe you're going fast and you don't realize. And then all of a sudden you come back through, or you copied it from somewhere else and it just didn't copy the formatting correctly. If any one of these ones is the one that you want to copy the formatting from, just click on it, click on the paintbrush, highlight all of them, and it made it the same. And that would also work if you had like two different lists in two different places. Say I just copy this, and these are, say they're two different lists. Actually, here one real quick thing I'll point out, because it's just kind of getting in the way now that we've got more stuff. Up on the top of your screen, there's a little box that has like an up arrow in it. It's next to the close, minimize ones, and it just looks like this. So this you can use to hide the ribbon. And this thing here is the ribbon. As opposed to the old just menu bar. If you click on that, you can tell it to auto hide the ribbon, and it goes away. But then if you go all the way to the top, and then click when it turns blue, it brings it back down. And then you can go pick what you need, and then when you go back down here, it disappears again. The other option is to show tabs. So it hides most of it, the tools that were here, but then you can still just go up here and go and click on these tabs, and they pop up. And then when you come back down here, they disappear again. Okay, so like we were saying, if we had two different lists and you had a big document and you wanted to go through and make them all the same, and somebody had like changed it, so instead of going through and be like looking for it and manually fixing it, you could just click in inside this list anywhere, back on the home tab, click on the paintbrush, and oops, I keep clicking on file when I mean home. Okay. Oh, and so notice that. So these lists, each of these are a separate paragraph. So if you use the format painter and you just click on one, it's only going to fix one bullet at a time, because they're separate paragraphs, and that's how format painter treats paragraphs individually. So you've got two options here. The first one is to double click on it and then just go through and do those. And you can just highlight them all and be done with it. So if you do that, the highlight method, you don't actually have to double click on it. Oh, why do I keep clicking on home file? Anyways, okay, so if I click on it just the once, for certain things, hiding the ribbon doesn't seem to. Okay, there we go. So if I just click on it the once, highlight it, then the format paint is done as well. Is that kind of the scenario you were running into?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then that'll happen like, yeah, that's exactly what
Or if you go through and you change your mind on something, right? Like, I'll do that too sometimes. You'll be going through something and like, man, I should have done this different. And then you can go through and change them back quicker. I believe under our themes and styles, there's ways to fix it. So if you keep the defaults, if you keep the defaults, then I think you can use themes and styles to change all of the bullets and numbering throughout the whole document.
themes and styles.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. That was what we were looking at first. Okay, so that's bullets. Okay, I guess one more thing on those. is there's a little down arrow next to the bullets, and you can change the character that is there. I've never actually used this one. I don't even know what it is. It looks like a fly. You can define a new bullet using any kind of symbol. My opinion is the default ones are really all you need.
So, just a question, what's the actual practical use for wingdings?
I don't know.
Yeah. I've never figured that. I've never seen them used. I don't know if they're boredom maybe?
I'm not sure, honestly. I mean, I think some of them were. Well, no, they're actual like symbols and stuff. Actually, I think you can use it like all the symbols are useful if you know exactly what character they represent. So I think they were being used before there was all the special characters available to you. So in the ASCII code there was it's either like 128 or like only 128 or 256 characters in total available. I think it was 128. And so no, it had to have been at least 256. Because your A to Z is what, 26, right? Or is it 24? 26? Okay, so 52 characters are taken up by that. Then you have your numbers and all your punctuation. And so all the available characters were used up. And so this was a different font, whereas each of the wingdings is just another letter as far as the computer cares, but it's displayed as arrows and stuff. So I think that was the reason for it initially. You know, now we've got thousands available, including all the emojis. Okay. So on to lists. So we first got a simple numbered list. Again, we've got the down arrow where we can go 1, 2, 3 in multiple ways with dots or brackets. We can also go with Roman numerals in capitals or lowercase. And then we've also got uppercase with upper and lowercase with dots. So anyways, so just whichever one you want to pick. And that's really all there is to it. I'm pretty sure everybody's probably used those. I don't know if Word is smart enough now to know that if I start typing, oops. Yeah. So, if you're going to make a list, you don't actually have to even go in there and select it. You could go a dot types, and it will by default recognize, well, I'm pretty sure you're making a list. And you can keep going. I think it'll go even further than if you... Okay, yeah, so automatically, if you hit Tab, it will turn it into a multi-level list. But I don't tend to like to have the same character. It's kind of nice to have something else once you get into the lower levels. Because then it's easy to like if this list doesn't, like, if it's not something I know what the list is about and I'm just looking at the formatting, I might look at this and just be like, oh, that's a mistake. They just indented and then go like this, even though that was the correct list. And then I can tab them back in. So if we're starting with a new list, on home you can click on the down arrow next to the multi-level lists. You can click one of these ones, 1.1.1. I kind of like, if the list is only going to be like one level deep, then I like the one with the numbers. And again here I'll add some more. It's like, I guess it doesn't like one list right after another, so I should have put something here. Because it wouldn't let me space them between each other. So let's go back and look at this list. So lists are actually linked to each other, unlike bullets. So if I click on the out here, if I click on the bullet itself, it'll highlight them all, and I can change. Excuse me, I can change them all together. Same with the list. If I click over here in the list, I can go back to home and change it to that one if I wanted to. And then same here. And you notice I can actually change it. If I select one level, I can change it from either the single level list or change them both by clicking in the multi-level list. Whoa. I guess that's really about all I can. Oh, so on these on the lists, if we highlight them all, yeah, so each level we can modify individually. Oops. Oh, but again, that only does one paragraph. Maybe we'll revisit that. I'll make a note of that.
Maybe an actual list one. So I'm trying to figure out how you're, like what you're trying to get at. But
Oh.
an actual list of all of them.
You see how lists work though, right? Everybody sees that. Okay. So we won't spend any more time on that right now. If I yeah, I'll have a quick look at the indents and I'll let you know how they actually work. So pictures and objects. I'm just going to add another section. And I'm just going to add some text here. I'm going to add some nice long paragraphs. Is that good enough? Okay. So we can click anywhere to insert a picture. And if we just go to the insert, tab, we got all sorts of stuff. So let's just start with pictures. So if you have a picture on your computer or saved somewhere, you can click pictures and find where it is and then insert it. Or you can search for one online. I think most of the time, most of your documents, you're probably going to have your own images that you want to use. But if you just click online picture, give it a second to load up. And then search for anything, and it will pop up. And then here's a thing to keep in mind. This Creative Commons only, if you leave that checked, it means that anything that it displays will be free to use. So I can just pick any one of these. Actually, you can click on multiple ones at the same time if you want. And then just click the insert button. And it puts that in there automatically. And you'll notice that it also, if you click on the image, it automatically adds the acknowledgement underneath of it. For our purposes, I'm going to delete that. But make sure if it's for anything you cite anything you use. You don't want to get yourself into trouble just because you used a picture and didn't state where it came from. So after if you select an image, then you end up with this up at the top, picture tools, and then a format.
I have two. I have one that says drawing tools and picture tools.
Okay. If you delete that little bit at the bottom, the drawing tools will probably disappear, I think. So just click on the edge of it and then hit delete.
Okay.
But on the inner edge. Or you can hit it over. Yeah, now just hit delete. On the keyboard. Yeah, there you go. So there's some tools under here. They give you some like borders and stuff, which are all pretty ugly if you ask me, but except for maybe just the but even that one gives you the reflection. Looks awful. Actually, this one might be useful some places. I don't know. I typically don't use it. Oh man, why did I do that again? Now how do I say none now that I've clicked on one? It's just undo. Yeah, there we go. Does everybody know that Control Z is undo? In most programs, Control Z represents undo. And then Control Y is redo. Okay, so the simplest of formatting for a picture here, you can just grab the corners and drag it in and make it smaller. The first thing to notice is that the text, Let me just add some more here too. So you'll notice that it just treats it basically like a large character. And so if I start typing up here, it just slides along like any character. There's not a lot of times where you probably want that. I mean, maybe if it's a little tiny image, but in most cases it looks silly and is kind of annoying. So if you just click on the picture, and then you get this little box up in the top corner for layout options. If you click on that, the default inline, it says inline with text. That's the default. And then underneath of it with text wrapping, you have some different options. So the most basic one there is probably top and bottom. So if I click that, it still puts it in the middle there, but it doesn't bring up text to the edge of it. For a lot of document types, this will be option. I think this is probably the most common formatting you'll want. Let's look at the others. Then we also have just a square text wrapping. So your text goes along, and then when it gets to it, it jumps over and starts on the other side. So each of these lines is interrupted. So that would be really hard to read. Where this would be useful is, say that this was actually two columns, and it was this side first and then this side, then that would make sense. And we can, if this is just a picture, this is the easiest formatting to work with if it's over to the side. Because now if you put it over to the side, it comes up to it, but then just goes to the next line because there's no space on the other side. To demonstrate the other ones, I'm just going to rotate it. So when you click your image, you get a little rotate handle on the top. If you click on that, you can just turn it. And you can see now that it is interrupting the text the same way, just with a bigger box, because as you turn it, it makes it wider. There's also another option in here for tight wrapping. And so now it comes into it as much as it can. And then there's the through wrapping, which unless you've got... I'll demonstrate that a little bit later. So again, because you're rotated here, there's not much you can do. I guess maybe if it was on the corner there and just the corner was interrupting it, maybe. But if you had two columns in there, again, that might look okay. If you had reason to have a rotated image. One thing I was going to look at was, but I didn't get around to it, is if these images had like white on the background. Sometimes you can make pictures, your pictures will always be squares, but or rectangles, but if it has an alpha channel in it, meaning like dark and light, parts of it could be transparent, and I believe if there was transparent bits in it, it would allow it come up to the transparent bits. I'll have to look into that and let you guys know again. I think that's all the... Oh, and then there's also... You can go over top, which just completely covers it up. or underneath. And if it was a really light picture, well, you can see here, anywhere you see the pear, you can actually read through it pretty good. And I think we should be able to. I think there's a place to make it, to set the transparency, which would lighten the image and just might make it a nice light background image. But you might have to do that.
It's in your color.
Okay, there we go. We can turn that. Yeah, under the brightness contrast. I mean, that was kind of what I was talking about, but not quite exactly. Oh, well, that didn't. Oh, maybe that's interesting. Mark areas to keep. I want to keep the pair. Mark areas to remove. I want to remove this. Okay. So, this is what I was talking about if you had transparent images. Or maybe it just made it white. I don't know. Let me see.
The artistic effects seem to do something for it.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so it did make transparent areas. There's other tools that are a lot better for manipulating images, and I would get your images where you want them before you put them in your document. Let's straighten that back up. Except for one really important tool is if you go back to there again, this crop tool. So I'm going to undo until I get that back. Okay. So I'm just going to put that straight again. Click on it, on the format tools, crop tool. Then you end up with these eight handles on the corners and all the sides. And if you just grab any one of those and slide them in, if you grab a corner, you can do two sides at the same time. And then when that's done, hit enter. Oops, hit enter once, and it'll cut the pieces off that you didn't want. Okay, if you right click on the image and go size and position, so for size, if you know what your margins are, you could set your width to exactly your margins, and then just click OK. It makes it however big you tell it. So I kind of overdid it. If you click on your picture and click on that little square again, you've got some more options in the bottom. One that's probably quite useful is under the position. If we've moved it around and it's not with text, like if we haven't set it to in line with text, then it's probably going to be absolute position by default. But let's say we want to keep it on the right hand side. We could click alignment And we can either click left or right. If we click left, it'll be on the left, and on the right, or centered, but let's go right. And then set this back to this normal wrapping. And then it won't shift sideways at all, but if we have extra, it didn't move. Okay, so if I enter, it'll move with it, but if I keep adding more to the paragraph above it, and that doesn't move it. Okay. But if we go up one, let's move it with this one. Oh, see, now I just messed up that spacing, and I'll go back here again. As soon as you drag it around, it's going to set it to absolute position again. I'm just going to set that over to the right again. I think if I change the, so if I make the paragraph above it longer, it'll shift relative to the top of the paragraph that you aligned it with, I believe, is how that's working. And you can do that on your vertical alignment as well, with the top of the page, or bottom of the page, or center of the page again. Notice on the relative to, column is the default. It's aligned to the right of this column, but there is only one column, so it's the same as aligning it to the right of the page. And I believe that's really all. That's really all there is to say about that, I think. So these tools, any formatting of objects and stuff, is going to be exactly the same when you use it in PowerPoint and any other Microsoft software that uses pictures and stuff will be the same kind of formatting. So Publisher would be similar to. Was Publisher on the list of things that we said we needed to cover? Does anybody have the? Is Publisher one of the things we need to cover? I got it. I don't think it was it? No, okay. Publisher's not used a whole lot, I don't think, anymore.
So what's the equivalent of Publisher? I know there's a lot of free stuff.
I don't know. Let's just look. Publisher free alternatives.
Like with Linux, is that still available?
Yeah, Linux is still used a lot.
That's kind of like the equivalent of Word, right?
No, Linux is an operating system, so Linux is like Windows. So on a Linux, a lot of the programs that you can get on Windows are available on Linux as well. There's a whole lot that aren't. Like Microsoft Office, you can't get on Linux. None of the Adobe stuff. I don't think any of that's available on Linux.
Is that still a thing still, like Adobe Flash, or is that outdated?
Adobe Flash is kind of dead. There's still some web pages that try to use it, but they're pretty old and they just haven't been updated.
The only reason why I remember is because online casino.
Oh.
Flash, so supported no more.
Okay, so other kinds of objects that we can insert, and then the format pretty much. So most objects, the formatting is similar. So under the insert, where's the shapes?
What
Yeah,
about
okay,
your
right
own
there.
personal pictures? What would you do? You just download it into an email file and then print the file? Or
Yeah. You could save it anywhere. So
like off your phone? If you take a picture from your phone, you just email it to yourself. And
yeah. So say I took one of these images. Okay, as a JPEG. Okay, so now I've put that into my download folders. Actually, I'll just put it in my documents. Actually, no, I'll put it in. If I put it in my classroom folder for this. So, if I wanted to insert that picture, I could go insert pictures. And then go into where I saved it. And go insert, and there it goes, puts it in. But when you're working on in programs and you need to like put a picture in it, rarely do you ever need to like use the insert function. So if I just opened up my folders, I browsed to where this is, and Word is open next to it, I can just grab it, drag it over here, and it'll put it right in. And then all the formatting is the same as what I did with that pair. We're going to look at shapes. So under the insert, there's multiple things you can insert. So we can pick a shape. Let's go with a star. So some things like this might be where you want to like wrap around something. I mean, it doesn't get too tight to it, but you can see how it goes around it for that little bit, and it goes as close to it as it can. Yeah, you can see the bigger it is, the more you can see the effect that it has. I don't know if this star is big enough to go with this one. Yeah, if we make it big enough, then we should start getting words in between. Yeah, so you can see. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it didn't work. I don't know. Anyways, again, I don't like to have too much stuff wrap around stuff because this would be really annoying to read. But if it wasn't such a dark color, then maybe having it behind that, you could read that, especially if I got rid of the outline. So that wouldn't be too bad to read if for some reason you wanted a big pink star in the middle. What else is of interest under here? I didn't realize there was an insert button for 3D models until just today. But again, if you go under to insert, then 3D models, tools, pick a mousetrap and insert that. So it looks like just a mousetrap. Actually, let me point something out here too. If you go under the View tab, one thing that's quite useful is you go View and then you select one page. It'll scale it so that one page fits in your screen. You could go with 2 pages wide if you click on the multiple pages. The one that I tend to work with most is this page width. So it zooms in so that the width of your screen is the width of one page. And so this that I just put in using that insert 3D model button, it looks just like a picture of a mousetrap from the front end. If the front is where you would catch the mouse. But if you click on the format under the 3D model tools after you select it, how do we get? When I went onto it earlier, it gave me. Okay, I guess it just didn't. Yeah, so I guess you just have to click and then start dragging. Then you can rotate it to whatever. And your formatting options are identical. So we could put that behind. But yes, but you can go to whatever angle you want, even the back. Which might be useful in some cases. Let's have a look at the smart art that's available here. I will maybe do charts next time. Maybe we'll skip charts and then do Excel and then come back to charts later, because most charts are most useful if you're getting your data from somewhere else, which will quite often be Excel. Alright, but I'll think about that and we'll decide later. But let's have a look under Smart Art. So again, under the Insert tab, under Smart Art, gives you some like lists and flowcharts. Or hierarchies. Yeah, so these could be useful little graphics to you. So maybe you're like got a cycle that you want to show. Just click that. Step 1. Click on the next one. Step 2. Step 3. And 4. And I think most of these are smart enough that if you get to 4 and you're like, oh, that's it, I didn't have 5, If I just delete it, it'll add it. And then if you realize, oh, I did have 5, then you can do that and keep going. You can basically keep going until it just gets too big to be useful. Now I'm just curious if there is a limit. I think it's just going to keep getting smaller and smaller. I wonder if I can copy these. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't look like it really limits it. It's just, at this point, it's like... Okay, that's enough of that. So why don't you pick out a few of those smart art objects and just explore a couple of them. Okay, so some of them, like if you look at this one, there's really no, like, if you try to add another one, it's like, I don't know where you want me to put it, so, yeah, so, okay. So explore a couple of those and find some useful ones. I've honestly never really used them a lot, but they're... I think there's a lot that would be useful if you were like making lesson plans and graphics for classes. Here's an interesting one. No, now I broke it. So you can add to the list on this one, and if there's more on one side, it'll tip one way. Or if they're even, it'll stay balanced. Okay, so in a couple of minutes we'll have a look at headers and footers as the last bit for today. Alright, as soon as they get back, we'll have a quick look at headings and headers and footers. So I think I'll show you the really most basics for headers and footers. I think I'll record a more detailed video that will go into quite a bit more depth. Okay. Let me just back up. So everyone knows what I mean by headers and footers? Okay. So when you're in Word, the easiest way to get into headers and footers is just to double click above or below the normal page. So, and then to get back, double click in the middle of the page. So if I click up here, double click, it opens up the header, and anything I put in here will be my header, and anything I put down here will be my footer. So yeah, you can get in and out of it from either the header or the footer. By default, it's the same all the way through every page of your document. So let's say we want on our bottom to just have the page numbers. Oh, so here under header and footer there's a few like already predefined ones. None of the like really in-depth predefined ones I don't really like, except for like blank 3 columns. And any of the ones that you don't like, you can just delete them. But I actually think these are, I think if you leave them and you go to print, I think it will leave them blank. But anyways, we can replace one of these ones with, say, our page numbers. We could go format page numbers and just put them in there. Didn't that work? Or we can just pick one of the predefined page number ones, go current position, page, whatever. And then we go through, and each page gets a page number. One thing I'll show you, I'll detail out later, is you notice in books a lot you have no page numbers on like your title page, and then no page numbers for a few pages until you get past the page with all your with your copyright and stuff on it, and then you start off at your table of contents with an I and Roman numerals for a little while until you get to the actual book. I'll show you how to do all of that in detail afterwards. Okay. So we can just put something in my header. We haven't talked about tabs yet. We'll go into details of how tabs work a little bit later. Not tabs like tabs in a page or like these tabs even, but when you hit tab on, let's just go to the normal page. Actually, I'll really just real quickly breeze through it. So by default, if I hit tab, why am I in normal? I think it's because I'm on the title page. So if I hit tab, it goes in a certain amount, and then I can type. If I hit tab again, it goes another certain amount. Okay. So by default, I think it's like every half an inch or inch. But we can add our own tabs. So say I want this first tab to be way out here. Oops. If I just right click on it, or how did they change that on me? Anyways, I can get to it by double clicking on that, I think, and then going. Maybe it's because I'm on the title page. Shoot. Anyways, now I don't remember how to add tabs. But if we're looking our header, you can have different kinds of tabs. One where you hit tab, it'll line up with your word on your left will line up with the tab. Another type where the center will line up with the tab, and another one where the right hand side of your stuff lines up with the tab. And so in the header by default, it adds 3 tabs for you. It adds 2 tabs for you. The first one is right in the middle of the page. We don't need one on the left because that's just the left margin. So the first tab is in the middle of the page, and you can see this little thing here that looks like an upside down T. And then on top of our right hand margin marker, it's got, actually it's not a margin marker, it is on the margin, but it's actually our right hand indent. There's one that looks like a reversed L. That is a right hand tab. So if I just hit tab from after typing on the left hand, it goes to the middle of the page. And then if I hit tab again, it lines up on the right hand of the page. So now we've got a really easy way to put 3 things on the top of your page. So this here, maybe your first one, you make like your title of the book or document. Maybe the middle you will make equal to your sections, or this first section, and on the right hand section. In technical books and documents, a lot of times you'll use one of these numbers. so that if you're going through the book, you can easily see how, because if a section's long, you don't want to go back and forth a bunch of pages to see if you're in the right section. So the next thing I'll mention is you might want, well, a lot of the times you're going to want a different header footer on the first page, and quite often it'll just be you don't want one on there. So when you're in the header footer, go different in the header, go different first page, and so the first one just disappeared, and then if we go to the next page, we see we still have that one. There's a lot of useful, so we already seen that we put page 2 here. And when I go through how to do the sections with, like, maybe you have a section with I's or Roman numerals for the page numbers, and then numbers afterwards, I'll show you how to reset these page numbers at the beginning of sections. Because you don't want to say go have 10 pages with Roman numerals and then start on page 11. You want to go Roman numerals and then page 1. But okay, so right up here, let's replace this where I just put this as a header. I can replace this with okay, under insert, I can replace that with a field, and a field is anything that it's a placeholder, and the text that's actually displayed is automatic. So if you go insert, under the text tab, it is this one, yeah, so end field. And then if you look here, there's quite a few different ones. Auto number. I think if you put that one in and insert it a bunch of times, I think it will automatically increase every time you insert it. But where we want to find ours is under, what is it, style reference.
Is that for page numbers or what are we?
No, this one,
For field, you lost me at field.
oh, okay. So, go into your header where you want to insert it. Go to the Insert tab. Click on this button here. When you go over it, it says Explore Quick Parts. My screen is squished from yours, so yours might actually say Quick Parts on it. And then field, and then the one that we want is what did I say? Style ref. Yeah, right down here. And then if I pick book, do I also have title? Okay, I use title, not book title. So if I put title there, if I go back and look and I put this is my title here, it automatically turned it into that. And if you click on it, if I click in the middle and I'd like try to edit the text, I can't do anything with it. Maybe in the middle I want to have today's date or something. Date, I can pick my formatting. Date is one that you have to be kind of careful with sometimes. Most of the time you should have to click on, click in here and then tell it to automatically update. Let me see if I have one. Yeah, so we can put one in that includes time. Not down to the seconds though. Okay. And then on the right hand side, I'm going to put my section. So again, field, style ref, and I'm going to pick heading 2. So it's going to look for, I think it looks for the next section. So this one shows section 1.1, and that's the next section with, sorry, not next section. These are all, everything under 1 is the same section. It looks for the next heading that is of level 2, because that's what I said I wanted level 2 headings. So the next one is 1.1. If we keep going to the next page, we have 2.1. And it carries on with 2.1 on this one because I don't have a 2.2.
Where are we going to in style ref?
And this one you'd have to be careful with too, because notice that I just went into this section that's under pictures and stuff, and it still says section 2.1 because I didn't put any extra sections. Or sorry, I didn't put any level 2 headings here. But let's say I put that under here, heading 2, and this was smart art. Yeah, so put that on that page. Okay, I guess it's the, oh yeah, it goes by page. So this one still says section 2.1, even though it's in the next section. I didn't add any more heading, level 2 headings. So it's going to stay at section 2.1 until it finds a page where it has a different one. And this one I put the smart art on it. So what time is it? So if the date, and yeah, okay, we're over time. But if the date is works as anticipated, if I save this, if I save it and then reopen it,
So this is all on the classroom, the whole, or are you gonna do a video on it?
well, this has been recording as we've been going. We'll check and see how good it sounds before I... Okay, so we scroll down. So if you're finished with a document, so it updated when we opened it. So that's what I mean, be careful with that. Like, if you're finished with a document, you don't want the date to keep updating. One thing that I like to do is if I'm done with a document and ready to give it to somebody, unless they're also going to edit it, I hardly ever give it to them as a Word document. And you can save it as PDF really easily by going File, Save As, we click Browse, and then it should go to the same folder where you saved it. Click on the type and just go to PDF and save it. And now it is a PDF. And I can open it with Adobe Acrobat. Or can I? It's expired, so it shouldn't open. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, it won't let me actually open it. But now it's a PDF. If I give it to somebody, that date's not going to change unless they manually do it somehow.
What if you don't have Adobe?
Well, you can open, well, so that's what I, so if you don't have Acrobat, you won't be able to edit it, but you can still view it, right? Like, you can open with any of the web browsers, will now open PDFs. So now I can open it up to read it in, which one is this? This is Microsoft Edge. So it displays it and they can read it. But it's not as easy for them to edit it. As much as I hate Microsoft's web browsers, Edge is the best if you want like somebody to highlight on it and stuff. Like you can draw in it nice and easy. So you can mark it up and stuff, but you can't actually edit it with Microsoft Edge. So that person could send it. Well, I guess if you were expecting comments from somebody, you would send it to them as Word and ask them to make comments and stuff, which we'll go over later. But we are 5 minutes over, so we will. We will, I guess, resume on Monday. Yeah. I really doubt we'll be here on Monday. I think we'll have to be at home.
So just stay home and just see what happens.